Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Write Club, where there are no rules and the rules don't matter. And we talk about what's going on in Write Club. Today is probably everyone's favorite free writing session. And I will share, this is actually the kind of free writing that I taught my daughter how to free write in this way. And the way that, for those of you who don't know, I actually wrote a novel with my daughter when she was 9 years old. And the amazing thing about writing a book with my daughter, it was amazing for two reasons. One of the reasons is my daughter's on the autism spectrum. So I actually found a way to communicate with her on a much deeper, more soulful, more intimate, more emotional level than she had access to with words. So it made our bond stronger. In addition, she also found the capability of speaking in a way that is different and not as challenging for her, because for her, activating her voice was very challenging and still is. She's much, much, much better. But when she wrote the book, she identified herself now as the author and identified herself in this way of being able to tell stories. Being an author actually gives us permission to tell stories that aren't true, that are fantasy. And very often as children, we do that. And very often at a certain age, we start hearing this message that that story that we told is a lie or an imaginary friend, or don't make things up. Or, we hear warnings like the boy who cried wolf, no one will believe you if you keep making things up. And while I'm not advocating in any way lying, writing is sort of like an ethical way to tell stories that aren't true. And sometimes those stories come true. And sometimes those stories actually give us access to a deeper truth that we didn't even consider. So it's not exactly lying. It's this ethical way of turning something into something that's more palatable or gives us access or gives us a different way to challenge and see ourselves. So with that, when my daughter and I were writing, one of the things that we had done previous to that is we loved to read together. So every book that we read together, and she was 9 at the time, so we were reading things like magical realism books, Roald Dahl, and books that take a little bit of a fantasy, fairy tale, slight, more developed fairy tale, Harry Potter style. And one of the things that we were identifying every time we would read a book that we really loved was one technique that every single successful author uses. And that's what we're going to do today. And even when I taught this to my daughter and we saw how effective it was, we also saw whenever she writes and actually submits to school, I get letters from her teachers going, how does she know how to write like this? Like, this is incredible, the details that she has. And really, it's just a technique. She just learned a certain technique. And the technique is easy enough for a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old to grasp. And so we're going to do that today. And it really is just a matter of getting in touch with our senses, because good writing lets somebody else experience an empathy for your experience, or for you to have empathy for another person's experience. They say if you want to really know someone, walk a mile in his shoes or her shoes, stand in their footsteps. Sometimes that isn't possible, but through writing and explaining the senses of someone else's experience, that's where we have access to someone else's experience. So that's what we're doing today. Today, our free writing session is all about the senses. And so we're going to do that as the exercise today. And it is literally my favorite. And I do wonder if from now on, after you learn this, every book that you read, you'll be watching for this and saying, aha, that's good writing. They learned this technique. Natasha added that Hemingway was great at sensing writing. Exactly. Exactly. Hemingway was a great example. And he actually speaks about this often when in articles that I've read of him, where he teaches writing or talks about the writing experience. He will talk about that he actually learned this at a certain time in his career, in his early career. And in fact, everything, some people will say that Hemingway is a little bit of a long-winded writer because he actually taps into every single sense along the way. So he kind of took this technique and made it his staple. And so we're going to get into this as our free writing session today, sensorial writing, writing through the senses. But before we get into the free writing session, I want to remind you the guidelines for the free writing practice. And I know I repeat this every week, but I want you to really hear it because you may hear a guideline that you didn't hear last week. So we're going to be prepared. We're going to set the timer for 20 minutes. That's it, just 20 minutes. It's a muscle, 20 minutes a day. Get comfortable, remove all your distractions. So have your notebook and a few extra comfortable pens handy, your favorite pens. Start by putting the date and the theme or the topic for today. So you can write sensorial free session or writing through the senses. And that's your intention for the day. And this will keep you grounded, and it'll keep the day's lessons. But also the important part is years from now, you're going to flip back through this journal. You're going to be looking for something that you wrote that was magical. And this way, if you get in the habit of writing in all your journals, the date and intention, it'll make it easy to find. I'll just add, while I'm giving these guidelines, I actually suddenly remembered in May of 2020 that I had written a story outline that had something to do with something that changed in the world in 2020. And I went back through the journals, and because I had the dates and the intentions, I could find that story right away and knew exactly where to look for it. So it does come back to you sometimes. Like you do actually, you'll find a use for this date and time of your intentions. And guideline number 3, keep writing. Don't stop to edit, to rephrase, to think, or to censor. Don't go back and read what you've written until after the free writing session is over. Trust your pen, stay focused on the topic and the image that arises. If you keep your pen moving, you'll bypass the censor, the resistance, the editor, the critic, or what I like to call the itty bitty pity committee. Sometimes I call it the itty bitty shitty committee. And eventually, if you're really lucky, you'll bypass the ego. And that's when you're writing from the soul. Don't judge your writing. Whatever comes up, write it down. Don't resist. If you reach a point where you can't think of what to write, just take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, loosen your grip on the pen. And as I always say, open and close your drawer. Let that free flow come out. Let whatever comes up, come up. Let it just come. If nothing else comes up for the duration of the session, just accept that. There's always tomorrow. Above all, do not go back and read what you wrote. Resist the temptation. That's the editor coming out to check on you. And no good writing gets done in editor mode. Tell the truth, even if it scares you, especially if it scares you. Let your writing find its flow and form. Allow your writing to organically take shape. And even if it comes up as something that you didn't expect, like a poem, an essay, a rant, a speech, a dialogue between people that you weren't expecting, let that come up. Whatever comes up, come up. Don't stop the flow. Break the rules. I know I'm giving you the rules, and this is rule number 8, break the rules. No good writing has ever come out of remembering the rules. Syntax, punctuation, spelling does not matter. There'll be plenty of time for editing afterwards. And if that editor mind comes up, just let it go. Say, after minute 20, I can look up that word. It doesn't need to be during free writing. And allow your writing to surprise you. Be passionate. Write about the things that are important to you and show up to write every day so that what you wrote yesterday and what you write today might look completely different and not in your style. Let it surprise you. And when the session is over today, or even when you're on your own, read your writing out loud. Let yourself hear your writing. You may surprise yourself that it actually doesn't sound like you when you read it out loud. And then listen for what works as a listener, as a reader, as an observer of your writing. And then you keep what resonates. Because if you keep what resonates with you, it'll resonate with your readers. And ultimately, that's what you want. So if you're ready, we'll go right into the free writing session, all about your senses. I'm going to turn my camera off so you have no distractions. Now, as we get into this, picture yourself in your childhood room. Doesn't matter what age you've pictured yourself, but once you've pictured yourself in your childhood room, identify what age that is, and now stay with that age. What do you see around you? What color is the wall? What color is the floor? Where's the window? Where's the bed? What color is the bedspread or the blanket or the pillow? Is the bed made? Is it unmade? Are there pictures on the walls? Is there a ceiling lamp? Is it daytime? Is there light coming through the window? Is your door open or closed? And as you're looking around the room that's very familiar to you, what do you hear? What sounds are in the room? What sounds are outside of the room? Is there a TV on? Are there other people that you can hear? What does your room feel like? Is it hot? Is it cold? Are you sitting on something that has fibers, or is it smooth? Or if you're sitting on your bed or just lying, or whatever surface you're on, is it soft, springy, coarse? Describe what it feels like, not just through your fingers, but what does it feel like under your bum, or under your feet, or under your back? Is the feel of what you're touching, does it feel hot, cold? Do you like the sensation of what you're touching? Do you feel your body tense or loose? Is your body enjoying sitting cross-legged, or sitting with your back straight, or lying down? What is the feeling in your body? Do you have tension anywhere? In your shoulders, in your jaws, behind your eyes? Is there a smell? Is there a smell that you're familiar with in your room? Is there a smell wafting in from outside of your room? Is it a smell that you know you have such familiarity with that you know what to expect with that smell? Is there a smell that's associated with something that you know the taste of? Does the smell make familiarity in what you're expecting to eat, what you're hungry for? Does the smell make your tongue create saliva in its mouth, like the smell of a baked good or bread or something sour or sweet might create a sensation in your mouth of an expectation of food? And now start to imagine, if you haven't smelled that there is something cooking, start to bring in a smell that you now do smell that there is something cooking. There's a smell of cooking coming in from somewhere. And now you're going to get up and go towards that. And as you do, what do you see? Was your door closed that now you have to open it? What does the doorknob look like? What does the sound of the door opening sound like? Does the handle or the knob make a certain sound when you turn it? Does the door make a certain sound when you open it? Do your footsteps make a certain sound as you walk through the doorway, going towards that smell? What do you see as you go towards that smell? Is it a hallway? Is it stairs? Is the hallway dark? Is it, does it have a lot of light? How do your footsteps sound on those stairs or in that hallway? Can you hear people talking? Can you hear the TV on? Are the voices getting louder? or the sounds getting louder. And as you get a little bit closer to the kitchen, can you hear something that has to do with the source of that smell? Can you hear someone bustling or moving or doing things in the kitchen? Does it sound like chopping, cutting? Does it sound like a wooden spoon in a bowl? Does it sound like a spatula on a pan? Does it sound like oil? As you're walking down that hall towards the kitchen or down the stairs, whichever is the case for you, touch the wall. Look at your fingers as you're touching the wall. What color is the wall? How do your fingers look? How do your nails look? And with your other hand, touch the railing or the other wall of the hallway, or whatever might be at reach of your other hand. How does it feel? As you come into the kitchen, see it as if for the first time. What color are the countertops? What color are the cabinets? What color are the appliances? Are all of the appliances the same color? Do they have things on top of them? Do the countertops have things on top of them? Are there pots, dishes, plates, a drying rack? What does it sound like in this kitchen? Is there music? Is it echoey? Is it dim? Is there the sound of a distant hum of the refrigerator running? Can you hear that if you listened? Is it squeaky clean that if you touch the countertops feel like you could eat off of them? Or is there a feel to the countertops that they've been well worn, well used? Is there a comfortable position that you always take when you're in the kitchen? Do you lean forward on the countertops? Do you rest against the fridge? When you open the door to the fridge, which hand do you use? How does the handle of the fridge feel in your hand? And as you look around, can you identify what it was that you were smelling? What drew you into the kitchen? Is it a recipe or a dish that you're familiar with? Is it something that you know the story behind it? Who made it? Why they make it? Can you picture the different spices or herbs or flavoring that is in that dish? Can you picture that on your tongue? If you were going to taste a little bit of this dish, just a small taste of it, what would you pick up to taste it with? A spoon, a teaspoon? Would you need to open the drawer to get that spoon or fork? How does the drawer pull open? Is it stiff to pull open? Does it glide open easily? Is it a wooden spoon or a stainless steel spoon? Do you have a favorite spoon or a favorite utensil that you always use? Take that spoon or the fork or whatever utensil you're using. How does it feel in your hand? And how does it feel bringing it to the pot or the dish that you're about to take a tiny bit of? Does it scrape along the side of the pot or the dish? What sound does it make? Do you have to cut what it is that you want to taste? Do you have to cut a piece of that? What sound does that make? As you bring that food closer to your mouth and the smell comes into your nose, what does it smell like? Can you sense before it even comes near your lips that it's too hot? Do you choose to blow on it? And how does it feel for that air to come through your lips? What does it sound like? And finally, it's cooled down enough that you can put it in your mouth. How does it feel in your mouth? What's the texture of it? What's the heat of it? Now you turn around and you see that someone else is in the kitchen with you. Who is it? What do they look like? How does their hair look? What color is it? Is it long, short, bouncy, straight, thin, thick? Is it pulled back, hanging loose? What are they wearing? What color is it? Do they have anything in their hands? Are their hands busy doing something? Do they speak? Do they say anything? What do they sound like? Is their voice high pitched, low pitched, gravelly, tired? Does their voice have an accent or a certain quality to it? Is it a voice like you've heard anywhere else? Does it have a sing-song quality to it or a stern quality? What did you hear that person's voice say? In the way that only that person could say that thing. And this person comes closer to you and they take your hands in their hands. How do their hands feel? Are they strong? Are they soft? Are they chapped or hardened or oily from the cooking? Do they have a really strong, loving grip? Or is it a grip that means business? How are they holding your hands? Is it between their two hands, or is each of their hands holding one of your hands? And as they've come that close to you, how do they smell? Is there a certain smell that only they have? Is it a mixture of something? Is it something they use in their hair or on their face? Is it the laundry detergent that they use on their clothes? Take a deep inhale. Is it their unique smell mixed with the smell of the cooking in the kitchen? Is it a smell that if anywhere else you smelled it, you would remember them? For the last 2 minutes of our free writing session, allow yourself to just picture what comes next in that scene with that person. They're holding your hands and you just write. What are the next sights, sounds, smells, and touches of what happens for the next 2 minutes? And whenever you're ready, you can finish up that sentence. Take a deep breath. You did a great job today in this free writing session. As always, write on.